Good afternoon, everybody. On this Thursday, June 26, 2025, I've got all of your stories for your rush hour ride home. This is a big one for you today, chocked full of Bachelor Nation news. We've got the Golden Bachelor going viral for what he said on a podcast regarding his age range for his female contestants. He's made some comments that are not exactly making him likable. Folks are saying they're gonna cancel their Bachelor Nation membership if they haven't already. I'll share that. Plus the crossover, Perfect Match on Netflix, has hired several of our favorite Bachelor alumni, that being Bachelor Clayton Echard and his ex, Rachel Recchia. So excited to see them possibly canoodle again on a new show. And then Justin Baldoni has a whistleblower, the journalist who claims he signed an affidavit under duress. Unbelievable stuff we're going to hear from Without a Crystal Ball as she breaks down what she expects is going to be bombshell testimony as a new star witness emerges in the Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni trial. Then we got Kilmar Obrego-Garcia. He's still in jail, but in the United States now after he was returned from El Salvador. And I'll tell you why they're keeping him in jail. It's because they fear if they release him before his trial that ICE will scoop him up. Wild stuff. We'll get into that. Plus, Pete Hegseth has an absolute meltdown of epic proportions, literally scolding the press over their terrible coverage of what he claims is the greatest military, pursuit of all time. Forget D-Day, forget all these other things. It's the bunker bombs they put on Iran, which, by the way, they don't even know if it's effective. So lots to get into. We got all these stories and more. It starts right now on The Rush. By the way, folks, I know you guys have been wondering. I was pretty ominous on the morning episode about my health. I had a hell of a night, and I've gone to urgent care this morning. I've tested negative for COVID and the flu. They did a blood test, a pee test, psychological. They touched my lymph nodes. They touched my soul. Nothing so far. I don't know what happened, but I had a deep chill. It could be that I was just burned out, but I want to thank everyone who left me nice, kind messages. I think I'm okay. More updates as the blood work comes in. All right, well, here it is. Bachelor Clayton Echard announced on Perfect Match. I'll tell you what. I've never been so happy for somebody that I don't really know. Now, I know Clayton to the extent that I've covered him for several years with his paternity trial as he was the victim of a fake pregnancy scam. We covered him when he was the victim of a fake cheating scandal. He kind of was this guy that during a reckless time online, people were kind of using him for their own fame and fortune. And he became the butt of jokes with his ex, Gabby Windy, where she said these bogus comments really from her position of power. And I've just been excited for him to get some wins. You know what I mean? I think that's true like grace, right? When you're just happy for somebody for no reason. I want him to go on Dancing with the Stars. I want him to do well. And I know a lot of you guys feel this way. I've been invested in him overcoming these obstacles that for whatever reason have plagued him since his time on The Bachelor. So my wish for him is that he finds love. And if he doesn't, my wish is that he gets a whole bunch of new followers and he can continue to thrive. That's what I want from him. But boy, is he going to be paired up, or I guess not paired up, but he'll be on the show with Rachel Recchia, who, by the way, I have to tell you, I have been, and you can check the record on this one, I have been a huge fan of Rachel Recchia for a long time. She's wildly underrated with her humor. Gabby Windy was always seen as the funny one on their season, but I'm telling you right now, Rachel Recchia should not be slept on. She's a catch. She's a very funny, quick-witted, self-deprecative person, and I think if we can get a little bit more airtime for her, we're going to see that play out on this upcoming season. Now, I got to tell you, when I watched Bachelor Clayton season and he had that makeout scene, do you remember that makeout scene he had on the dock with Rachel Recchia? I was like, send everybody home. This is it. This was hot. Now, it didn't work out for them in the long run, obviously, but look, the show never works out for anybody, but I'll be the first one in line to see if they want to, I don't know, give it a second shot, although I don't expect to see that happening. Well, Jesse Palmer is teasing the new season of Bachelor in Paradise, which of course will feature Golden Bachelors along with regular bachelors. Jesse Palmer says that Paradise, they were sucking face in the pool and taking body shots, and that was the Golden folks. Here's what he had to say. This will be probably a surprise to a lot of you. It's not to me because I've been around them, but it's actually the Goldens who I think infused the most energy in the show. I'm not taking a shot at a younger cast, but after a couple of days of shooting, you kind of start getting comfortable. You start coupling up and everybody does, and it feels like they're off edge a bit. The Goldens bring it every single day. Like the parties at the pool in Paradise. It was all Goldens turning it up. The Goldens are getting turned. Can somebody make me some turnt Goldens merchandise? I need turnt Goldens for all my boomers out there. I'm happy for them. And you know what? You know what it is? I hate to sound like so old school, but it's like these older folks, they don't care what you're going to say about them on Reddit. They're living their life. They've experienced things. You know what I mean? They've dealt with a lot of life. They're not going to get upset if, people don't like, their tone or them making a fool of themselves. One of the biggest issues with The Bachelor has become the awareness of people on the show. Everyone's so contrived and doesn't want to get canceled or hated on. And look, I get it. I understand. It's sort of a tough needle to thread, right? You want to be authentic, you want to be you, but your career is dependent on whether or not you're likable and whatnot. But I got to tell you what, who's not coming off likable is the new Golden Bachelor. Oh boy. Here from Claire and Emma Pod, they shared this, our new Golden Bachelor on his potential bachelorettes. This has been going super viral in the Bachelor community, as he says he wants the younger ladies. Have a listen.
But how much did they share with you? Did you get a chance to have bios of the women, know their names? Like, I don't know how much you knew going in, or was it a blind date?
It's blind up until they get out of the limo.
Okay.
But they ask me, like, what's your preferences? So I just said 45 to 60. just being honest, right?
Yeah. Here's the problem. Don't be honest. Now, you might say, look, if he's 60 years old, I'm going to get his age in a second. But if he's 60, you can understand maybe if he feels like he's a young 60, he would want people that are younger than him. I can understand that to an extent. What do they say? Half your age plus 7 is the lowest you should go. Let's ask Nick Viall about that.
Sure.
And then the process went and I was selected, right? And then we had lunch with the executive producer. I said, if they're 60 or over, I'm cutting them.
He says he's going to cut them. Now, here we have Mel Owens is 66. So this is, by the way, your audience is primarily women. So you got to know your audience. And, everyone feels replaceable. Everyone's aging. So nobody likes somebody who's so focused on age. You know what I mean? So this is not going to go over well for the audience.
Oh, Mel, you can't. This is not the Silver Bachelor. This is the Golden Bachelor. He goes, but they're going to be hot. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so he goes, you can't use the word cut. I go, well, that's an NFL term,
Yeah.
And so I don't know anything about him, right? But I know, I was telling him, I go, you guys are the ones that are vetting. You're the ones that are picking. And I know they're going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
I know they are. But I had no say in them. I have no resume. But they asked me, what is my profile? Well, they got to be fit. Because I'm stay in shape and work out and stuff. And
which, by the way, I think that's fair. You want people that are fit. It's like, look, you have your preferences. I get it. It's going to be a mix of what you want and what they want for you. And of course, in the end, it's a TV show. It's all about making good TV. So there's going to be folks on the show that are dramatic as hell that you might not be physically attracted to, but they're going to bring it.
I told them, try to stay away from the artificial hips and the wigs.
Yikes.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Right?
Oh boy. So he's making jokes, obviously, but at the same time, it's like, bro, this isn't going to help you out. Nobody knows you, right? Nobody knows you yet. This is rough, but either way, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't think they filmed yet. They could literally can this guy. Wait till you film the thing before you start talking about wigs and artificial hips. Oh, boy. Well, Liver King in the news. He has been ordered to stay away from Joe Rogan. No contact. mental health evaluation ordered after his arrest. Yeah, I mean, he looks, this Liver King looks like he's been, baking in the sun a little too long. He's overdone. It takes a lot for the Liver King to make Joe Rogan look young, he's a big meatball there. But anyhow, he's ordered to stay 200 feet away from him after he made these weird threats that he wanted to fight Rogan. Yeah, weird dude indeed. All right, coming up next, we're going to discuss this new angle to the Justin Baldoni story. It might seem, from the outside looking in, tired that we keep on talking about it, but this is like straight out of a movie. This is like a true crime movie playing out as we now have the Daily Mail journalist getting whistleblower status. This story next. Boy, I got to give Katie credit from Without a Crystal Ball on Instagram, YouTube. She's dusting journalists. I mean, she is really putting a clinic on what she's able to expose. Now, we have to wait and see how a lot of this is going to play out, but let's just read what she posted. This just released a couple hours ago. Blake Lively is claiming victory, but she still has to prove the claims she brought against Baldoni and the Wayfair parties. Leslie Sloan claims that a Daily Mail reporter, James Vituska, has exonerated her by filing a declaration stating that Leslie never told him Justin Baldoni sexually assaulted anyone. However, insiders have told me that James Vituska's declaration is in the process of being amended and or withdrawn to correct the record. Additionally, Vituska was granted whistleblower status in the state of New York for speaking up to his employer, Daily Mail, about his disagreement with the statements in the declaration. Daily Mail allegedly forced Vituska to sign the declaration despite his protests under the threat of termination. Immediately after signing the declaration, Vituska sought new attorneys to represent him. Mark Garagos law firm is representing Vituska. Brian Friedman subpoenaed Vituska for documents in a deposition related to the declaration, Leslie Sloan, the film, and the reporting on Baldoni Lively. Through his new representation, Vituska obtained whistleblower status under New York Labor Code 740, which protects employees from retaliation by their employers for speaking up about unethical and criminal acts within the organization. According to my sources, Vituska will comply with the subpoena and will testify if needed. His testimony will be able to help Wayfair's defense that Blake Lively and her agents planted stories against Baldoni, which resulted in Baldoni's need to respond. Vituska will also be able to share what Leslie Sloan told him about Baldoni, which cast Baldoni and his team in a false light to distract from Blake Lively's malignant behavior on the set and her takeover of the film. Stay tuned. Listen, guys, this is insanity what's going on. Now, normally, in the world of journalism, even smut journalism, you keep your sources private. There's unnamed sources. There's off the record things. There's on background, right? All of these different terms to keep your sources hidden. But because Vituska is doing a little whistle blowing, or at least has the potential to do that, he can potentially really pull the curtains back on coercion. Now, if Daily Mail wanted him to lie under oath, why is the big question. Is there any evidence that Daily Mail wanted that because of what Blake Lively's team was threatening Daily Mail with? And maybe the threat is access, saying, look, if you don't do what we say, none of our clients at WME will ever give you a quote ever again. I don't know, something like that. So they play ball. But what we still don't know is was the term sexual assault ever used? Because if that was used, that's defamation, right? Because it was far from the true accusations of what Baldoni had done. And we saw that that quack psychologist, Dr. Leslie Dobson, right? Quacky indeed, right? And she said she had all of these credible claims. What else is going to come out about him of sexual assault? All these things. And by the way, nothing came out from that. So I think this is absolutely huge that he's willing to change his affidavit. And, in basically anything that came from that affidavit, which could be the motion to dismiss, can be re-looked at, as far as I know, because this information that the decision was made off of was wrong. Messy as hell. This is messy as hell. And now that Vituska has his own legal representation, who, by the way, Garagos, friends with Brian Friedman, right? They're all, Garagos is friends with Harvey Levin at TMZ. They're all in that same club. The fact that Vatuska now has legal representation looking out for him and not the overall brand is a big deal. It's like HR, right? Human resources. They're not there to protect you. They're there to protect the company in the end. And a lawyer for your employer is not there to protect you. So good on him, even though this comes after, stepping in it by signing this affidavit. But good on him for, if this is true, coming out here and righting the wrong. We'll have more updates as it comes, but really good work by Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. All right, let's dive into this absolute wild story here. We've got Pete Hegseth. I mean, he's a real quackpot. He's head of the Department of Defense, right? He was plucked out of obscurity. He was a weekend news commentator on Fox, right? He's got a self-described drinking problem, and right, everyone's worried about these DEI hires, but here we have a DUI hire. Well, now he just scolds the fake news and says they have no respect for the military. Why? All because they're trying to get the story right. They're trying to find out what's true. They can't, figure out their lefts from their rights because they're lied to nonstop. Have a listen to this.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes.
By the way, journalists are not meant to be cheerleaders. They're meant to ask tough questions to get to the truth. You've got the press secretary who's essentially propaganda for the president, and then you have journalists trying to pick that apart and get to the truth for the American people.
You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story?
Yes, I would like an investigative report on which diapers they use as they're flying these planes. Do they have a catheter? Are they able to take shifts? I mean, listen, I've been on a 16-hour flight to Qatar. It was a long one. A 30-hour flight on these B-22 bombers. I mean, are they listening to the Rush Hour podcast? I would love an investigative story. But how bizarre for him to scold the media like this. I mean, could you imagine any other administration seeing this? What I'm going to play for you after this clip is over is them fighting back.
Have we done the story how hard that is? There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible.
And by the way, the leak came from his intelligence, right? The intelligence is who leaked the fact that it wasn't successful. And by the way, that's where they stand, that there was something like 800 pounds of uranium that was trucked out of where they bombed, and that they might not even have reached the sort of the uranium enrichment center. So it's not even wrong. So it's like, is he just asking the press to not ask questions? Which, by the way, would be extremely dangerous. We have two things right now that are holding up in our country: the judicial branch, and it seems as though the press. They're starting to ask tough questions.
And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon. It's an important responsibility. And time and time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that? How about we talk about how special America is, that only we have these capabilities?
Didn't we just have a parade last Saturday? What do you want? We just did a parade. Come on.
Too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that.
says it's too much to ask for the fake news. So this is where we start to see a real riff with a Fox News reporter, which honestly makes me wonder, did they have like some personal beef with each other? Fox's Jennifer Griffin asks a question, and then he says, "You are about the worst." Could you imagine? Have a listen.
Satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance. Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst. The one who misrepresents the most intentionally what the president says. I'm familiar.
Report about the ventilation shafts on Saturday night, and in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy.
She said, "I reported this with great accuracy." That's a journalist way of saying go F yourself. I love that the camera punches in on her. First of all, I hate that this is so dramatic. It should not be this way, but this is the result of hiring TV personalities to be the Department of Defense. They're not like they're more worried about looking good than they are about finishing the job.
So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. So we're looking at all aspects of intelligence and making sure we have a sense of what was where.
Why not? There were satellites.
Weird stuff. We're going to continue with some more dissent with the government. But first, Kilmar Obrego-Garcia in federal custody. Now, you might remember he was sent to El Salvador to rot in prison with no due process, all because they accused him of being a member of MS-13 because he had a Chicago Bulls hat on. I mean, it was real quack stuff. And here's the update.
The man at the center of the White House's crackdown on immigration is now going to stay in federal custody for at least the next couple of days. This is kind of a plot twist here, coming from the judge overseeing the case of Kilmar Obrego-Garcia. Remember him? The judge says she's going to keep Obrego-Garcia behind bars for now because Justice Department lawyers couldn't say for sure that he would not be deported or sent to an ICE facility far away from his lawyers. Here's the deal. It's basically a foregone conclusion that Obrego-Garcia is going to be picked up by ICE agents once he's out of custody. Remember, he's a legal permanent resident of the U.S. He was deported to that high-security prison in El Salvador back in March in what Trump administration officials called an administrative error.
Unbelievable stuff. What a journey for this guy. We'll give updates as they come in. So we spoke about freakouts happening with our Department of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and now we have Pam Bondi also freaking out when she was asked about Trump's crypto grift.
UAE is also the CEO of MGX. So after that request for those chips occurred, MGX then said, we will buy 2 billion with a B, of the president's coins. And then the president went to the Middle East and said, we will get you those AI chips. Does this sequence of events in which a foreign government asked for a big favor, and we had previously banned these chips to UAE because of the national security concerns. Then they buy $2 billion of the president's coins, and then the president goes to the Middle East and says, we will provide those chips. Does that sequence of events concern you about foreign influence on the United States of America?
The foreign influence on America that I would be concerned about if I were you was the Mexican national that resided in Oregon, who we just arrested, who had 384 pounds of methamphetamine. The foreign individual who I would be concerned about if I were a senator from Oregon is the Honduran drug trafficker who was residing in Portland for distributing fentanyl. The foreign national I would be concerned about if I was a Portland senator, an Oregon senator, is a Mexican national.
So here's the problem, right? She's picking out, people that are committing crimes, and obviously that exists across the country, but we're talking about much larger grifts, billions of dollars in bribes, chip manufacturing going to adversaries, possible security issues, much bigger issue than somebody, on the street selling meth. And it's whataboutism. One thing doesn't prevent the other from being analyzed. Donald Trump's net worth has gone up by 40% in the last 4 months. So this is a man who's been around for 8 decades. He's acquired several $1 billion. And since he became president for the second term due to his crypto scam and a few other things, It's gone up by 40% that fast. And we're not supposed to ask questions. Make it make sense. Actually, we are flat out of time right now. I wanted to cover this topic of artists and why we need artists in cities like New York, but I'm going to save it for tomorrow morning. So we'll save that for later. We're just having too much fun over here, folks. We can't get to all of our stories. We'll finish the other stories in the morning. I want to thank everyone for sticking by me as I kind of work on my health here. Been run thin with all of my comedy shows and this and that and, being a dad and a husband and all that stuff. But it means a lot to me knowing that I have an audience who cares about me. So thanks for all the kind words. If you haven't already, join our free Facebook group, Dave Neal's Community on Facebook. Just search that. It'll pop up. You can join, the conversation over there. Or you can be a member of the Patreon where there's behind the scenes live streams. Today on the Patreon, I was discussing just exactly what happened with my health last night as I try to recover from this little incident. Not to alarm anybody. I think I'm fine. But I'll give you updates on Patreon. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. All right. Well, we've made it all the way to the Friday episode. So we'll see you then. Everyone have a good night. Go do something risky out there at the bars. Lie your way into a good conversation. And go find somebody with a fake hip and wigs, as the Golden Bachelor can't do it. We need justice for the fake hip wig community. All righty. We'll see you in the morning. As always, I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.